to be showing you how to do a multiplicity photo using Photoshop on a laptop. So the first thing you want to do is airdrop the photos to your laptop. First thing you want to do is make sure again that your Finder and AirDrop is on. Also, I'm going to make sure that I am turning on my Bluetooth in order for this to happen. So you want to make sure that you are discoverable by everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and select from my phone. You're not seeing what I'm doing on my phone, but I'm going ahead and I'm picking the 3 photos that are going to be in my multiplicity. I'm going to AirDrop, I'm selecting my computer. When you see AirDrop pop up right here, you want to accept, do not open in Photos. I repeat, don't open in Photos. You want to accept those and download those to your actual computer. So now when I go to my Finder and I go to Downloads, I see those 3 photos right here as far as what I downloaded. So next, I'm going to be opening up Photoshop. So here's my finished multiplicity that I put together, but I'm going to exit out of that so I can show you how this actually works here. So I need to get those 3 photos opened up. So I'm going, now these are all the images that I have played around with before. I did this tutorial. Here are some other tutorials that Photoshop has to offer. But I'm going to go to over on the left-hand side. I'm going to open my images. Here are the 3 images that I just downloaded. I can open them all up at the same time. And here we go. My 3 images are opened up. So a couple things about Photoshop and how it's organized. Over here on the left-hand side where I'm clicking back and forth, those are my tools. I like to have my tools doubled up next to each other. So when I do describe some tools, I might say, hey, you're going to be using the 6th tool down on the left-hand side. That's why it's a lot easier to have your tools organized like this. Then also on this side, you have your different panels. We are going to be using layers. So layers might be stuck down here with paths and channels. Just so you know, you can actually move these different dialog boxes around. So I actually moved layers up here so I could actually see my layers because I'm going to be building up some layers for my multiplicity. And again, that is on the right-hand side. So up on the top, you should see that you have 3 different tabs open. So here's me in the middle, here's me on the right, here's me on the left-hand side. I want to get all 3 of these images on one document. So I'm actually going to build everything up on this first document on the left. So my middle document, I am going to start using key commands. Now, hey, you could go up here and select all, but I could also go to Command A. That is select all. Command C is copy. And then I'm going to click on my my first tab or my image, and I'm going to go to Command V for paste. That is V as in Victor. So there I just pasted my image on top of the other image. Everything should be aligned because I took all the pictures and I didn't move my camera. So I can exit out of this one. I'm done with that. And now I can go to this 3rd layer. Again, the tab over here, I'm going to go to Command A, which is select all, Command C. When you do select all, you should see this little marquee or these marching ants, as I like to call them, around your image. So again, Command C to copy, and then you go to Command V to paste. And now look at on this side of my screen over here on the right-hand side, I have 3 layers right now on top of my images, or on top of each other. Now, this background layer usually shows up locked. If you double click on it and just simply hit OK, it will unlock that layer for you. Now, the reason why I unlocked it, just so I could show you that, yeah, we can move these layers around. I can tuck these layers in between each other or, bring this one all the way back down to the bottom. Also on our layers, we have what are called layer visibility. I can actually remove the eyeball so I can actually see what is happening with the layers below. Now, when you highlight a layer, like I'm highlighted on layer 0 compared to highlighted on layer 1, that's just a way for me to select the layers, what I'm actually working on. So I am going to now select myself in this image. I am working on layer number 2. It is highlighted. There are different ways that you can actually select your image. And look at what Photoshop does. It actually kind of gives us some tutorials here as we drag over our tools. Now, there are various tools used for selection. There are the marquee tools if I'm drawing or trying to select something that's a rectangle or a circle. We have our lasso tools. I can freehand lasso. I can also use a polygon lasso tool if I wanted to select like this cabinet right here, which is comprised of straight lines. So I could actually click along the cabinet door, and now I've selected that cabinet door. Why would you want to be able to select something? Pretty easy. If you want to actually affect that area and that area only. Now, there is also a magnetic lasso tool that works out pretty great if you are, trying to pick something that has an obvious edge, like this cabinet down here below. You're watching all those little squares, or what we call anchor points. I am not adding anything. I'm just dragging the cursor over that line. If I double click, it kind of, connects back to the original line. Hey, there's our bell. Now, I'm not going to use any of these lasso tools just to show you. I am actually going to go to the tools here. Now, anytime you see a tool that has a little arrow next to it in the bottom right-hand corner, that means that you can actually reveal other tools. There's the magic wand tool that works out really great if you're trying to pick like one thing, like this letter H up against a different background. That magic wand tool works really well. However, we're going to use what we call the quick selection tool. All right, so I'm going to go up here to select and deselect so that I'm starting out with nothing selected. And now look up here at the top, my brushes. I have a plus and a minus. You can also change the size of your cursor, but I'm going to leave mine at 75 right here because it looks like it's, a fine size to work with. And now all I'm going to do, I just hit Command 0 to make that a little bit larger. Now all I'm going to do is draw over myself. I'm going to try to get every part of me. If it picks up part of the background, not a big deal. I'll show you how to fix that in a little bit. I'm going to make sure that I get these sleeves here. Get my hand, and I'm also going to try to get as much of that shadow as possible. All right, I'm even going to pick up this part down here just so I can show you something that we can do later here. Now it picked up some extra stuff up here, so I'm going to go to my minus sign. I'm going to minus that back and try to push that back as close as I can to my head and get my ears there and all that kind of stuff. And so that's looking, pretty good. I need to add a little bit more to the side of my head over here, so I'm just going to push that line over. It picked up a little of the background, not a big deal. All right, so once I know that everything is selected correctly, watch down here over on my layer panels. There is a rectangle with a circle in it. I'm going to hit that, and I just created what is called a layer mask. You can't really see anything, but let me remove the eyeballs here, and you can see everywhere I traced is now in, is in the document, is selected, and it's part of the layer mask. Everything that is at checkerboard right now is black on my layer mask. So you can see over here, I just clicked on the picture, and now I clicked on the layer mask. So I could actually edit within the layer mask, and I am going to show you how to do that in a little bit, but right now, I'm going to remove the eyeball from layer number 1, or 2, excuse me, the layer on top. I'm going to click on layer number 1 in the middle, and I am going to go back to my selection tool, the plus sign, and I'm going to go ahead and trace this through. All right. So you can see that I'm just drawing over myself. It's going to be really easy for some of this stuff like the finger because it's a nice defined edge. If your values are really similar, that's where the quick selection tool is going to have some issues. I'm going to go to the minus sign right now so that I can push, that part back. I need to go back to the plus sign here to grab that part of my shirt. And I'm even going to grab part of the table here. And why not just grab some of this lower part because that's where my shadow is as well. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. Of course, I can push this back corner part back. All right, so I got rid of that up there. And you guessed it, I want to create another layer mask. So you can see everything that I selected is included in the layer mask. I'm going to bring back my eyeball for the top. I'm going to bring back the eyeball for the bottom. And now it's looking pretty good, except for one issue. Hey, that's the chair. I'm missing my body for this image right down here. Remember, this particular image is covering up that part of my body. So what I want to do is I'm going to show you, I'm going to bring all these eyeballs back. I'm going to click on layer number 2, that is the image of me on the left-hand side. I'm going to click on the layer mask, and I actually am going to edit this layer mask. And watch how easy this is. So when you're editing in a layer mask, you're basically just drawing black or white onto the layer mask. Layer masks only really recognize black and white. Black is what you don't see, and white is what you see. So if I go over here to my colors at the bottom of my toolbar, I can switch these back and forth to white and black. If I use a brush, which is what you want to use, there is a pencil option, but always use the brush because you have a lot more control. So with the brush, notice with my cursor, I can change the size of my brush. So if I go real big, now the cursor is much bigger. And if I go smaller, now the cursor is smaller. Okay? I'm going to go a little bit bigger. And now this hardness level, look at up here what's going to happen to the circle when I bring the hardness level down to 0. It actually will fade in the edge. I'm going to actually use that faded edge to my advantage here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm basically drawing black over my layer mask, again, to reveal myself in the image. So I'm bringing back my arm over here. I'm fading it in so it actually looks really nice as far as up here. We're not really seeing a defined line or edge, and that's great. But let's say up here I wanted to get rid of this part by the top left of my head, and I'm still using that faded part. Well, hey, I'm now getting rid of my head, all right? So I could always go back to my brush, bring this hardness level back up to 100. Now I want to switch my color to, I'm sorry about that. I'm going to switch my color back to white, because white is what we see within a layer mask. And look at that, I'm drawing my head back in. Obviously, you can zoom in on things. There is a magnifying glass that I can zoom in on this, and so I can get a little bit better and see what I'm doing here to make this a lot better. So again, white is what you see, black is what you don't see. So if I want to go back to my brush and I go back here, I select that so I'm getting my ear back in there. I can make my brush even smaller now. And then I can go back to black. And now I can really do a good job of editing around my ear. All right, I'm editing that part of my hair. I can fade that out a little bit, maybe go to hardness level, of 70, so that I'm kind of fading that edge in so it doesn't look so rough for my layer mask. I'm hitting Command 0 to bring me back to the original image. Everything is looking pretty good. Now, one of the nice things about Photoshop on the laptop is I can actually do certain things to my image now that everything is separated. This image of me here on the left, I'm looking a little pink, all right? So what I could actually do is I could do an adjustment level or layer, all right? Here are your adjustments. If I want to affect maybe the hue saturation of my image, I can scroll over these and you can see that you will have different options as far as stuff that you can fix, very similar to what we went over in Lightroom. Here is hue saturation. If I click on it, and again, I'm highlighted on layer 1, so it's actually going to pop that right above layer 1. If I want this hue saturation to only affect layer 1, this box with the arrow down will link me to this layer and this layer only. So right now I'm going to desaturate myself just a little bit so I'm not so pink compared to the rest of the images. So I just brought my saturation down. I'm now going to pop that down here so it's only linking to layer 1. Layer 1 is now underlined to show me that it's only linking under layer number 1. And that's how you use an adjustment layer. The nice thing about using an adjustment layer, that, hey, let's say I don't like what it did, I can always go back and readjust it, or I can click on it and just delete it completely. All right, I'm not going to delete it. I want that back, so I'm going to go to Edit, Undo, Delete Layer, and I'm going to bring that back. And now everything is looking pretty good as far as me finishing up my image. Now, let's say you don't finish in a class period. When you go to File and you go to Save As, you will be given different options. Hey, do you want to save this as a cloud document, or do you want to save this on your computer? Now, a couple things. When you do go to save this, if you save this, it will potentially save all these layers. And we want our image to be a JPEG, which means that it is a flattened image. All right. If you save it right now, it will save it as a Photoshop document, a PSD file, and our Schoology system doesn't recognize PSD files. So when you do go to save, you can always go to save a copy. All right. And then I'm going to go to save it on my computer because I'm done at this point. So I'm going to say save as a copy. I'm going to save it as a JPEG, which will flatten my image. Again, JPEGs are flattened. So when I go to save, you could also title this as well. You know, don't change the end. Always leave that .jpg. But if I want to type this multi2, because I did a first one called multi, I'm going to go ahead and hit save, hit OK once you get those JPEG options. And then when I close out of here, on my desktop, I should have a multi2 or wherever I did save that. And that's where I'm going to be then posting that. Here's my multi-copy 1 that was saved as a JPEG. And again, that's the one that I executed yesterday during a tutorial. If you can't find it, well, hey, you can always go to your Finder. There's multi-copy 1. If I want to go ahead and find multi-2, it's in my downloads, so there is multi-2. And of course, you could always search for it if you remember what you named it. So that would be the file that you would then go ahead and put into Schoology, and that means you're done with your multiplicity, doing it in Photoshop on the computer.